Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Excited to go over what is new in Onshape's latest incarnation, the 1.198 release. It's almost 200 releases now. It's We're creeping up on that. I remember when I first joined Onshape, the numbers were pretty low as far as the release numbers, right? And 200 releases has gone by so fast. Every 3 weeks this happens, right? And, when I used to be a CAD person, doing deployments and working for a reseller, a lot of my time was devoted to installation and updates. I could probably count years of my life, devoted to that task if I added it all up, which is a little sad sometimes, but I appreciate it so much more now. I don't have to lift a finger to enjoy all these great updates. Of course, we have staff here at Onshape that's definitely lifting a finger to push these updates out in such a reliable way, without any downtime. You don't have to send people home to do your upgrades, right? It's just one of these great things, and so happy to be part of that. And here we are at the 198th version of Onshape. So let's get right into it. I will share my screen here and we'll take a look here at my Onshape account. And, if you, look really closely at the bottom here, I have 1.198 right here. That's what everybody in the world has, which is so nice. And what I want to do is cover, some of the big enhancements. As we kind of noted on the forums, we're spending a lot of time on, correcting some things, some detailed items that might not be big, punch you in the face kind of items. But, you know, there are a number of things I think are massive in this particular update. The community agrees as well, right? So, here on the if you look at the Onshape forums, we're seeing some great comments. Replace face feature has been updated. People appreciate that one. I do too. I love replace face direct editing. Dealing with visualization updates is important because this touches every part of the software, right? When you're looking at a 3D model all day, different ways you can slice and dice it and look through it are very welcome. And the community has definitely mentioned that for visualization as well. There are keyboard shortcuts that will help you as well. Like there was a question on the forums, that a user asked about holding down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on Windows. What about Linux, right? Um, and of course, it's the Alt key on Linux, and the community was kind enough to reach out and respond to that. So a lot of good, interesting things that were released. Let's hop right into it. And I'm going to start with the visualization stuff, eye candy, right? Display of internal edges for isolate and transparency modes. What does that mean? All right, let's take a look here. You can see my screen, of course, here in Onshape. So I'll open up our friend the jackhammer because I know there's a lot of internal parts. Notice how quickly that opened too. It's just really fantastic. Let's see. We want to get in. There's a lot of stuff happening on the inside of here. Maybe I want to mate one of the gears, that are in here, right? Let's actually I have a folder here for the gears. Did you know? Let me zoom in just a little bit. If I go to the gears here and I right click on that folder that I put in here for gears, you notice there's 2 gears in here. You can just right click on the folder and say isolate. Isn't that so nice, right? But you'll also notice isolate provides some additional controls now. Okay. So as I look through this, I can now, decide, how I want to select things. When the parts around the gears go transparent, they previously were not able to be selected, for anything. But now I can select that transparent geometry. I can kind of go through a transparency slider here so I can understand, what's happening there. I can also, use my isolate controls as well, but these are the transparency controls at the top. So now this makes it so I can select things to perhaps mate to, like if this gear right here, let's select, that's the big gear. You can see there's no mates on that particular gear. If I wanted to mate, that to something on the inside of this, I can now, select things that are on the inside, which is, really good. It also really, let me show you on this one too, because I was trying it on this on the coffee grinder here. Because this one actually has some in context references. It actually is double good, I think. So, like, in Onshape, you can have in context design, for your designs, right? I have, um, if I turn that off and turn that on, you can see that I have a part, on the inside of here, a motor, and you really can't see it because of the way, I have my default settings right now. If I hide the the grinder housing right there, you can see there's a motor, on the inside of it. But it's kind of hard to see when you're in these transparent modes with transparent parts, right? So it does kind of come in a little handy at having this feature, right? So um if I roll this back just a little bit, you will see this happen. So let's isolate or make something transparent. That'll work too. Let's make something transparent. There we are, because this command works for both isolate and make transparent. You can now see under make transparent, if I make the outer wall transparent, I can see the motor. And now I can kind of, almost hide completely the housing, right? And it makes it way easier to, work with it. I can unselect transparent geometry, and that makes it way easier to select the motor context reference. So if I were trying to design like an inset, for that motor, normally you'd have to go in and start doing section views. Oh, I wonder how this works with a section. Oh, that looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, it all works with section view too. So yeah, it's pretty cool that we can combine these different modes. But previously, you'd have to like do some trickery, like slice and dice to get in here and hide and show parts. But with the make transparent and the isolate tool, you can now select the things, that you want. Like if I want to select the transparent geometry for the hole, previously when I would go through this demonstration, I would have to always go in and hide and show parts, but now I won't have to do that because I can select right through transparent geometry and select the edge that I want for a particular task, right? Um, Philip Thomas on the forums. If you look at the forums, let's actually go to the forums for a second. Showed some interesting ways of just using it for um, visualization as well. So if I scroll down here, go full screen here. So pretty cool engine model here, TBR. Um, let's watch him go through it because I think it's really good. You're going to be able to get some interesting visualization effects now. Of course, we're in dark mode here. In this particular model, but really pretty interesting being able to see the sharp edges of the internal parts and the transparent setting on the rest of the housing. Being able to come up with, oh, there's a section view right there. So combining those techniques, so really cool, different types of things that you can get now from the visualization inside of Onshape. All right. Next up, I will replace face. Works with more than one face at a time. Um, so in this particular case, if I go to replace face, I know I have a replace face feature in here somewhere. If I search for it, that's the easiest way of finding it. Just start typing in the name of the feature and it'll find it. You'll notice I have one face here and faces to replace. Notice the plural in both of them, faces to replace and faces to replace with. Right. So, this is great because now we can replace entities with more than one face at a time where there's some sort of gap or you can't have a gap, of course, but you want to have surfaces mapping one face to many faces. Almost think of this as like a power trim in 3D. If you kind of look at the example that Neil Cook had created here, let's actually just go through his example. It's a very good example. So, he's gonna just close the lid of this insulin injector housing on the top, the cap. And there's a nice kind of grouping of three faces that are available to replace this flat kind of boring face with. So that surface number two, that surface body is made up of three faces, right? There's This was previously something that you would have to try to create as one contiguous surface to do a replace face with. But now we can replace one flat surface with three, in this case, surfaces here from one surface body. As long as they're all touching, connected, continuous, that's really the rule for that particular thing. But it really will save a lot of reference geometry steps, when you're doing your geometric part modeling. All right. The UX for the Move 2 options have received an update. So, if you have I have this design here, um, and I'm gonna, go ahead and move actually, let's see. Let's go to the forums here. All right. So, this is essentially when you're moving a document. So if I say go to the hamburger menu here and choose move to, you'll notice this new icon here where I can sort, the names of things. Previously, there really wasn't any control over this, but now you can sort it by last modified, which is what I think it was by default. But now I can sort it by A to Z or Z to A. So a couple of those things have been making it into Onshape lately with sorting and filtering. So it's nice to see some continued effort on that. Um, how about some communication improvements? So this one is my favorite um, item for the new update because it has huge implications for data management, sharing, and security. If you look at this, I'll just go back to the coffee grinder. Why not, right? And this is a good example because in this document we have a lot of things, right? We have some renderings, we have a design studio, part studio with several things in it. We have, I done a 3D scan of this thing to kind of help as a reference and design some of the new parts around it. I have this base, which is an aluminum machined part that's going to go out to one vendor for quote. I have these two items here are plastic parts that'll go to a completely separate vendor for a quote for a injection mold or something like that. But I designed these together, of course, because like all these parts rely on one another. It's just the way you would want to do part studio modeling and Onshape. Each one of these can get their own release process, right? As in Onshape, I'll just click out of it. Just click back in here. I have some releases in this document. You can see there's one where I released looks like the entire assembly at Rev A. Okay. Maybe we've made some changes and I want to release this access cover. I don't think I've released that one yet. I designed that one after the initial release. I'll give that a part number and release that as well. I just usually give it an automatic item number. and use that as the release name as well, just for my own process. Um, and I'll release it. I'm an admin on this, so I'm going to release it in one fell swoop, just so I can get you, so you can see the differences here in what you can do with a publication. All right, so that's fully released now at Rev A. If I were to click into this part right here, I can see the Rev A item that I just released in there is that item right here, the part number 2885, which is the access cover, right? So we've released all that, but I want to create a publication for 2 quotes for 2 vendors, right? So I'm going to create a publication and I'm going to call this Q dash A, and I'm just pasting that same name in here. You could give it labels too, like this is for my uh, Plastico mold and die, we'll call it. And I don't know if that's real name of the company. I'm just making it up. And I'm going to just create it. So let's insert only what I want to send to Plastico for a quote. And I'll go to my recently opened list, and there's my released items. And here's the cover and the access. I also have a drawing for the cover. I'll insert that too. So this is much different than what was previously in Onshape, because prior, if I were to insert a released item into a publication, let's go to my recently opened list, and I unchecked the release button here. You had the option of putting in release things, but you would see everything else too, relating to the part studio that part was designed in. Well, in many cases, this is beautiful, right? People want to have this level of depth. But if you're sending a part for quote and you don't want to see all the detailed feature list, you don't want to see all the other parts that were related to it for reference and surfaces, like, I could see that scanned image and the surface model that I replaced one face with another with. All that stuff is not relevant to the quote and could cause confusion if you're in a quoting process. But I could share this. I'm going to get rid of the design reference here. I've inserted just the references that I want to see in my design, right? Here's the actual 3D model of the part. I've provided access to export this tab as an STL. I have a design rule in my company that will automatically name this. I'm going to get to that too. That's another new improvement that didn't get a video, but I'm going to show it to you in just a second. But you can see it's created. It knows it's a 3D print because it's exporting the STL. It knows the name of the part. It knows the material. And it knows it's Rev A. Right. So I could do that again for the access right here. If I hit export from here, if I did that, you can see it's doing all the things. Doesn't look like I set a material on that particular one. That's my bad. But you can see there's the rule. So no feature tree. You're able to export if the permission is enabled, right? I have permission because I'm everybody right now in this document. But if I wanted to share this with the contractor, right? I'm going to say, hey, you get view only access to this. You can export and you can comment, but you're damn well not going to make a copy of it. Right? And just like that, the contractor has received a communication via email. They can view, they can see exactly what I'm looking at here, essentially. They have all the view modes. If I, let's go to the appearance panel, I can see all the appearances. I can do section views. I can do if there was a whole table in here, I'll show that in a minute. And custom tables, properties that are related to it, measurements. I want to measure, from one place to another, get an idea of what's going on, right? All of that is here, inside of a publication. The most important one, I think, is the analysis tools, meaning like draft analysis, surface quality analysis, things like that. Like here's a curvature color map. I'm getting this in a viewer that this person on the other end does not need to think about, right? Here's my draft analysis, mass property analysis. So really good stuff. And I'm giving somebody Rev A of that part. And there's no question. If there was a Rev B of that part for some exam, for whatever reason, let's see what happens, right? Let's go back to the original document and make a revision change. Here's the document. And you can see that this part is a little different than the one that I had released prior, right? Let's do a comparison to show that difference. See that the surfaces are quite a bit different. Hide this base. Oh yeah. You can see that the inside faces are completely different. I greatly simplified it from this kind of weird parting line here to having the parting line on this nice edge of the groove. So I want to release that one now instead. So, now that I've done my comparison, I would release it. I'd hit the release button, go through the workflow to release the cover. I don't need to release anything else. Like that, I can add the cover and any drawings relating to it. Now, it will find the drawing if you've updated your drawing. So let me just update the drawing as well. Because the drawing is right here, the cover. And the cover needs an update. Now there's a little trick right here. Like if you create a version in an Onshape document, this button will show up. These drawings should be updated. Coffee grinder drawing. It's doing a check for you, like doing your work that you would normally do when you're doing checking. This is the best way of just automatically having Onshape update the drawing to get the latest changes across the board. So it's like doing a reverse lookup of all those references. And if I do that, I've updated your drawing, I've created a V10 in my document. And then if I go ahead and do a release now, see what it did. Now it automatically connected these two because I did it from a drawing. But if I got rid of the drawing and just started a release from here again and hit find drawings, it should all work good. Yeah, because there are changes. We're going to Rev A to Rev B. And I'll release that. All right. So with that release happening, if I go to my publication, go to another tab in Onshape here. There's the publication. You see what the publication is showing me? Like if I had sent this out to somebody and I did this internal in my company, everybody knows that this is obsolete now. That's the rule that I've set up in my company. I don't have to make the old one obsolete. That's a setting in your Onshape enterprise or professional company. But it's showing me instantly, like, we have that. It's obsolete. We should probably, update the publication, right? So I would just say update link document. It's going to go from Rev A to Rev B. And I can do that for one or all of them. There we are. Rev A, Rev B. And you'll see that drawing update. So this is like the safest way of sharing, as you can tell. Like you don't want to export the PDF and do all that stuff. It's like, just share the document, share it with the access you want, and then the people have exactly what they need at their fingertips, and you don't have to, like, be pushing around emails. Okay? That's my recommendation of the day. Alright, more stuff on exporting. So let me go back to, I could export from the publication or not. Oh, by the way, let's go back to the publication, actually. I can do the rest of this demo from the publication because all those viewing options. What did I do here? Did I put 2 drawings in here? Maybe I did. Let me just, add one more piece here. There's Ref B of the cover. I must have inserted, wrong reference. But anyway, so here's the, Rev B of the cover. And all the, choices you have for isolate and things like that. Actually, we need something a bit more complicated to show that. Let's show the entire assembly. I'm just gonna put the last version in there. Um, all that stuff works too. All the make transparent and isolate things work in a publication as well, right? Selecting things, showing things, really, really nice. Um, and if I want to export perhaps the bill of materials, yeah, how do you get to the bill of materials for this, by the way? Well, it's right here. Just pick that button. You get all your templates here, embalm, purchasing bomb, right? Whatever way you want to show it. By the way, in a view only mode, you can add more columns like that. And if you like the way this looks, let me just apply the embalm template again. That's a nice template that I have set up. We'll add my top level row so it shows everything at the bottom. I want to export that as a CSV file, right? But I want it to be named a certain way every single time. What is new now is there are export rules now for files, flat part patterns for DXF and DWG, as well as assembly bombs. So if I export this to CSV normally, I'm just going to get a CSV and open it in Excel or whatever, Google Docs. But what if I want it named something different than coffeebombgrinder.csv? Well, you can set rules in your organization for this. In your settings, let me get rid of that little icon here. Okay, there we are. So in your settings, it can be at the enterprise level or your personal level. But I'll go to preferences, scroll all the way down here, and we have some export rules. I'm going to create a new export rule for an assembly. And you can have categories of assemblies. Like if you had like an electrical assembly versus a mechanical assembly, things like that, you might get different naming conventions, but I'll just say it's regular assembly catch-all. And you'll notice that there's an option here for CSV_bomb. And here's the naming convention. So we're going to get the name of the assembly. I'm going to say dash $, open squiggly quote here. Forgive me for not remembering the parenthesis name there. And if I start typing in any letter, like let's say units. If I type in YN, I'm finding units. Maybe you want rev in there. Rev would be important on the bomb. And I'll close quote that. And I'll do another dash, pound, open parenthesis. And I'll type in, another quantity for it. Maybe shipping size is very important. So that's a property that I have in my account that I've set up that auto calculates the shipping size based on the bounding box of the part. It creates that property. And now I can even use it in exporting names. And I'm not doing any API programming here. This is that's not my bag, really, not yet anyway. So, just like that, I can export that information when I export a bomb. So if I'm in here in the bomb and I save as CSV, look at the name now. Let me zoom in. Can't really see it though, can you? But the name is indeed different. It's coffee grinder underscore rev underscore shipping size. And there is no rev on this because I exported from a non-revved thing. So that's why it didn't fill it out. So what I'd really want to do is export from a revved thing. By the way, did you know you could do that? This is a lot of stuff in here. I'm just diving into fun little details here. But if I was in final Rev A version of this and I wanted a bomb of this at Rev A, and I go to export CSV, I can export the bomb at that point in time and it would write the rev property and all that. So really pretty cool that you can export file names of things other than the just CAD geometry now. Another new option, resume from last location. So let's say you kind of got out of an Onshape session, you walked away from your desk, it timed out, or your internet dropped out, and or whatever, whatever happened, you come back and you want to get back into what you were doing. You don't want to have to navigate back to exactly where you were before, but you do. So now you don't. Essentially, it'll remember the last location, whether you're in a search result, in a view of a document, in a big assembly that took a minute or so to open or whatever. You don't want to have to relook for it. All that stuff. Resume from last location is gonna work out really well for you. Let's see. Thanks for those comments, Lewis. Nice to see you on the call today. So happy to have you on, and it's great to see you. Next, let's see if there's anything else. There's a couple of other things that I haven't had a chance to play with yet, but I'm excited to. Is on the Apple Vision Pro, you're able to connect multiple documents now to a live session. So if you don't know, with the Apple Vision Pro and Onshape, do a quick Google search here, just so you don't, don't know what it is. It allows you to use an Apple Vision Pro device to run an Onshape session. I remember back just as early as 10 years ago going to virtual reality caves that required a huge setup, huge file publishing, pre-setup, millions of dollars. You have to travel somewhere. Now you can just, people complain about the cost of an Apple Vision Pro. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's $3,500, right? And compared to 10 years ago when you would have a similar experience, if not even as good, was $1 million. That's quite a change in technology, Moore's law kind of stuff, right? So, it's really cool that we have this option now to view and collaborate with one another, see live design updates. And now you can even have more than one document loaded at a time that you can swap to that you have ready. You don't really have to prepare stuff to push to Apple Vision Pro. It's just you have it running on your iPad or your phone, and then, the Apple Vision Pro connects to that essentially, and you're running your Onshape session through that as a display device instead of, in addition to your iPad essentially, or a phone. So a lot of they keep adding new things to the Apple Vision Pro. So, give it a shot. Go to your Apple store and check those out if you haven't had a chance to. It's amazing technology. And I'm sure it's only the beginning. There's going to be, more of this stuff in the future. All right. So that is what is new inside of Onshape in this particular release. So I really want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me today on this Monday, and it's almost summer, so we'll keep on pushing out those updates. There's a lot of good stuff coming, and can't wait to see you next time. All right, have a great day, everybody.